If you think you've heard everything about corruption and injustice, think again, because this story will make your blood boil. And if you want more shocking real-life inspired stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and stay tuned, because what you're about to read is a rollercoaster of betrayal, irony, and the ultimate twist of justice. Cops plant drugs on black man during a routine stop, unaware he is a DEA agent. It was supposed to be just another quiet drive home, another late evening when the city's neon lights bounced off the wet asphalt after a brief drizzle. But for Marcus Ellison, a seasoned and sharp-witted black man with years of service under his belt as a decorated undercover DEA agent, the night was about to unravel into a surreal nightmare and ultimately a poetic form of justice that not even Hollywood screenwriters could have drafted. Marcus, dressed casually in jeans and a hoodie after clocking out from a week-long operation, was mentally replaying the case notes in his head, thinking of the cartel bust that had just wrapped, when suddenly flashing blue and red lights pierced his rearview mirror, pulling him out of his thoughts and signaling him to stop. And while traffic stops were nothing new to him, he had conducted and witnessed hundreds in his line of work. Something about the smug, swaggering stride of the two local patrol officers approaching his window made his instincts flare, because he recognized the telltale signs of cops who weren't there to protect and serve but to intimidate and exploit, and his intuition wasn't wrong. Officer Daniels, a tall, pale man with a shaved head and a forced grin that never touched his eyes, leaned in with the casual arrogance of someone who believed he owned the streets, asking Marcus in a tone dripping with condescension if he knew why he'd been stopped. And before Marcus could even answer, the other cop, Officer Hughes, younger, jittery, and clearly the sidekick type, circled around the car like a predator eyeing prey, shining his flashlight into the back seat though there was nothing but a gym bag and a few files tucked neatly away, and Marcus, calm but alert, handed over his license and registration, watching their eyes dart over his name. But the problem was, the name meant nothing to them, not in this city precinct, not in this district where corruption had seeped so deep that some officers acted more like street hustlers than law enforcers, and in their twisted little game, Marcus wasn't a federal agent tonight. He was just another black man driving alone at night, and in their eyes, that meant target practice. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that the man they were about to frame was not just trained in detecting lies, reading body language, and surviving undercover drug operations, but was also armed with the full weight of federal authority, connections that reached higher than their captain's office, and a quiet but burning sense of justice that would eventually turn this night into the worst mistake of their careers. It started with the classic intimidation tactics, Daniels pretending to smell something suspicious, theatrically sniffing the air like a bad actor in a high school play, while Hughes muttered about how Marcus seemed nervous, though in reality Marcus's heartbeat was steady, his breathing controlled, his posture relaxed yet ready, because years of undercover work had taught him never to give an opponent the satisfaction of seeing fear. But when Daniels ordered him out of the car, Marcus knew where this was heading. He'd heard the stories whispered by locals, seen the case files of shady traffic stops where drugs miraculously appeared in glove compartments, under seats, or tucked into jackets. And though part of him wanted to flash his badge right then and there, shut this circus down before it even started, another part of him, the calculating agent side, decided to wait, to let them dig their own grave deeper, because sometimes the best way to expose corruption is not to stop it, but to let it reveal itself in full daylight. So Marcus stepped out, hands visible, voice calm, cooperating just enough to deny them any excuse for escalation, and as Hughes patted him down with exaggerated care, Daniels strutted back to the cruiser, and within moments, returned holding a small plastic baggie of white powder, his grin widening like a hunter about to claim a prize, shoving it in front of Marcus's face and declaring loudly that he had found it under the seat, an accusation so sloppy, so brazen, that Marcus almost laughed, because not only had he cleaned his car thoroughly earlier, but he had been under DEA surveillance himself during his last mission. There was no way any real drugs could have been in his possession, which meant Daniels had just planted evidence in the dumbest, most reckless way possible, oblivious to who they were dealing with. Marcus, biting down the urge to reveal himself too soon, simply asked if he was under arrest, his voice steady, his eyes locked onto theirs with a quiet intensity that unsettled Hughes, who shifted uncomfortably. But Daniels, puffed up with false power, snapped back that yes, he was under arrest for possession of narcotics with intent to distribute, and as they cuffed him, shoving him against his own car, Marcus's mind raced. Not with fear, but with strategy, because every second they continued this charade was another nail in their coffin, another piece of evidence he could later use to not only clear his name but dismantle the corrupt little empire they thought they had built in this precinct. He let them push him into the back of their cruiser. Let them talk trash about another dealer off the streets. Let them enjoy their moment of triumph, because he knew once he made the call, once he invoked the authority he carried, their world would collapse like a house of cards in a storm. At the station, the humiliation continued, Daniels mocking him, Hughes filling out paperwork with shaky hands, both acting like kings in their castle, but Marcus remained silent, observant, storing every word, every action in his mental vault, until finally, when the time came for his official interrogation, he leaned forward, fixing them with a look so sharp it cut through their arrogance, and slowly, deliberately, he pulled out his badge from the inside pocket of his jacket, the one they had failed to check properly during the sloppy pat-down, placing it on the table with a soft but devastating thud, and the silence that followed was electric. Hughes went pale, his pen slipping from his fingers, while Daniels's smirk evaporated, replaced by a twitching jaw as the realization dawned on him that they had just planted drugs on a federal DEA agent, a man with the power to destroy their careers, their freedom, and perhaps even their lives if the investigation went far enough. But Marcus wasn't done, because true justice isn't just about catching someone red-handed, it's about making sure the rot is fully exposed, so instead of immediately calling his superiors, he let them stew in the shock for a moment, then calmly informed them that every word they had spoken, every action they had taken since the stop, had been recorded by a hidden body cam he always wore off-duty for personal protection, a device synced to a secure DEA server, meaning that even if they tried to cover their tracks now, the evidence was already beyond their reach, and the look on Daniels's face at that moment was priceless, a mixture of rage, fear, and the crushing realization that the predator had just become the prey. The twists didn't stop there. As the Internal Affairs unit stormed in later that night, tipped off by Marcus's quiet but decisive call, more skeletons came tumbling out of the closet. Daniels and Hughes weren't just bad apples, they were part of a larger ring within the precinct, a network of officers who had been skimming cash from busts, planting evidence on innocent people, and running their own small-time protection racket with local dealers, and Marcus's case became the thread that unraveled the whole corrupt fabric, leading to multiple arrests, suspensions, and one of the biggest internal scandals the department had ever faced, making headlines across the city and igniting public outrage. For Marcus, the experience was both infuriating and vindicating. Infuriating that in 2025, a black man could still be so casually profiled, framed, and dehumanized by those sworn to protect, but vindicating because fate had placed the wrong target in their sights, and by standing his ground, by letting the corruption expose itself, he had turned a personal violation into a systemic reckoning, a story that spread not just as another tale of police misconduct, but as a symbol of resistance, resilience, and the truth that sometimes justice wears plain clothes and drives an ordinary car, waiting for the right moment to strike back.